Rugby World Cup stats finally here. Been promising them for a while. It's been tough to actually, put this thing together. I had a day off today, so I basically spent the last 10 hours collating stats from each individual game to get an overall picture of how the Rugby World Cup is going so far. I didn't want to make this, just a format of me telling you what a stat is and showing you who the best and who the worst were. I wanted to make it, have a little twist on it. So what I've done is we're going to have it in the same format as the Rugby World Cup. So we'll have a quarter-final, a semi-final, and a final of the best teams in a particular stat. And then we go look back at the pool and see how the pools themselves finished. And then finally, we'll look at the 5 best performances by teams in the individual games, and then the 5 worst performances by teams in individual games based on that particular stat. So also, I want to keep these videos short for me at least, which means around the 10-minute mark or so. So to do that, I need to do basically 1 stat per video, because otherwise these are going to be hour-long videos if I try and include more stats in them. So we're going to kick on. We're going to look at our quarterfinal. Today we are looking at meters carried. So the way I've done it is we've had 32 games so far. Some teams have played 3 games. Some teams have played 4. So this stat is actually meters carried per game by each of the teams. And we follow the format in terms of which pool faces against which, etc. So quarterfinals here, we got in quarterfinal 1, Argentina made that quarterfinal with 470 meters per game run, but it wasn't enough to advance any further, but still a decent performance from them, given that, they haven't looked great in the tournament, but they still carried enough meters to make those quarters. The quarterfinal number 2, then, surprise maybe here, is Italy with 586, making it out of Pool A. I was very, very surprised when I saw that stat there. Had to go back and recheck it as well. Into quarterfinal 3, then we have England coming out of Pool D there with 484. So both Pool D qualifiers not making it past the quarterfinal stages. And another team not making it past the quarterfinal stages is Ireland there in quarterfinal 4 with 626 meters. So, their average per game is higher than the other quarterfinalists that were knocked out there, but still Ireland cannot make it to a semi-final. On to the semi-finals then. In the top semi-final, we have Georgia eliminated there with 523. That was enough to get them past Argentina, but not enough to make the final. But still, great performance for Georgia there. They haven't impressed overall, really, in the tournament. They really just turned up at the weekend. It felt like their tournament started then, right when it was ending. In the other semi-final, we also have another Pool C qualifier, Fiji with 516. We know they love to play kind of almost 7 styles rugby. Sometimes it's effective, sometimes it's not. But, in terms of making it to the semi-final in this stat, it absolutely was for them. On to the final then. So the beaten finalists were Scotland with 699. An amazing performance from them. If Scotland actually make the Rugby World Cup final, I'm sure Scotland is going to close down for a week or a month or whatever afterwards, as would Ireland if we actually manage to do that as well. So amazing stat for Scotland. We know they're a team that love to run the ball and pass the ball, and this stat absolutely backs that up. The amazing average per game for them. And then the winners of this little tournament is New Zealand with 723. So they might have lost that opening game to France, but the other 3 teams in their pool absolutely, felt their wrath there as they kind of came on a redemption arc, as it were, and just racked up those meters. So New Zealand, at the moment at least, the best team in terms of meters carried per game in the pool stages. Okay, so that's our little knockout stages there. We're going to now look back at the pools and see how they would have finished if we were judging them just on meters run or average meters run. So Pool A, New Zealand there at the top with 723, Italy 586, France, they're in the middle with 570, maybe a little bit surprising from them, but we looked at stats during the Six Nations as well, and we saw that they actually like to kick a lot, and the running a lot of the time is actually reserved for counterattack. Uruguay then with 382, we've seen them show a lot of ambition. And then Namibia there, actually not that far behind them with 323. So, not terrible by Namibia at least. On to Pool B then, we got Scotland at the top there with 699. Ireland next with 626, sorry. South Africa with 549 in the middle. We've seen different performances from South Africa. We've seen times where they have released that amazing backline that they have, and other times where they've relied on the forwards and maybe not made as many easy meters. Then Romania next with 287, actually beating out Tonga with 282. So in the final pool game where those two meet, Tonga are probably going to maybe nudge ahead of them there on that stat. You would imagine. Most people are expecting that Tonga will win that game. On to Pool C then, we have Georgia there at the top with 523. I'm sure they wish they were topping Pool C at the moment. Fiji in second with 516. Australia with 480. We've seen great Australian teams in the past run the ball a lot, but this team just didn't have the forward pack really to give that platform to some decent backs like the likes of Nawaqanitawase and Kellaway, who didn't play the whole tournament but still had impact when he did play. Portugal, they've been a shining light in this tournament, really ambitious with ball in hand, and they have been making meters, just not as much as most of their Pool C opponents. And Wales there at the bottom with 429. Warren Gatland team, probably not that surprising really that Gatland goes for efficiency and effectiveness over basically just throwing the ball around willy-nilly, but I would expect that meters carried to increase as Wales' performance does get better as well. On to Pool D then, we have England at the top there with 484. We got Argentina next at 470. Japan with just 354. Japan, a shadow of the side really that played in 2019 that was so expressive with the ball. There's Samoa there as well, who like to throw the ball around but aren't making as many meters as they would like with 323. And Chile at the bottom, another team who've lit up the tournament with 312. And for them, I think the issue is that it's in little pockets, little flashes that they've been doing it. It's not sustained. So let's have a look then at the top 5 carrying performances and then the 5 worst carrying performances after that. So top, we have Scotland versus Romania. They made 1,154 meters, which is just absolutely crazy. Next then, Ireland versus Romania, 1,098. France versus Namibia, 840. South Africa versus Romania, 810. And then New Zealand versus Italy, 806. Italy so abject in that performance, you probably would have expected New Zealand versus Namibia to be the next one to come in there, as Romania and Namibia have been the two poorest teams in the tournament. But Italy were just so bad in that one, they actually conceded the 5th most meters carried in a game so far in the tournament. On to the worst performance then. The worst performance so far with ball in hand has actually been Samoa versus Argentina, making just 132 meters. And, Samoa, they had a great chance in that game and they just never really turned up. And, I'm sure they're going to be kicking themselves about that. Then with Namibia versus New Zealand, who only made 212. Ireland versus South Africa, 218. Scotland versus South Africa, 229. So those two just speak to how good that South African defensive line is, especially first up, stopping the ball carrier very early and not allowing teams, to advance beyond that. And both Ireland and Scotland found it hard to find space against them. England versus Argentina then. So England, they won the game, but Argentina kept them, to very few meters made, but they were, it was 14 against 15, and Argentina, although it looks good in terms of not giving them that many meters, England were still able to kick their points and get the victory there, and it was fairly comfortable in the end for England as well. But that's our meters carried stats. So New Zealand there at the top. We will look at other stats covering, tackles, set piece, etc. over the coming week, and then after the pool stages as well, we might come back and revisit some and see how they change. But hopefully you like this format. It's, as I said, it's a good one for me, because now that I've actually put it together, I'm going to be able to make a number of stats videos from it, and we'll have more for you in the week.